Hi, everyone. I'm Rick Parkhill. I'm the director at Brand Storytelling, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Angela Matusik, my friend and advisor on our Brand Storytelling Advisory Group. And she's joined today for a chat with Antonio Lucio, a Hall of Fame marketer coming from spending time at Visa, HP, Facebook, but really his work in diversity is what we're talking about today. Some of us come to this drive for diversity in our business late in their career. I certainly did. But as Dr. King said, it's always the right time to do the right thing. And that's what we're doing here at Brand Storytelling. We've launched the Diversity Imperative. You can read about it on our website. We've already brought 20 underrepresented creatives into the community that we're matching with mentors and sponsors to help them advance their careers in the brand storytelling world. But you can look at that on our website. Today, the chat is with Mr. Lucio. I'm going to turn this over to Angela right now and turn my video off. Angela is an award-winning brand storyteller. For those of you who don't know her, her work at HP earned awards for her history of memory and other films that she did there. She's a journalist turned brand storytelling and a great friend. Angela, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Rick. And I am so thrilled and honored to be here. I can't think of a better way to start a Friday morning than speaking with Antonio Lucio, who you heard from Rick is remarkable in his career and the way he leads his life with purpose. He has held CMO roles at huge global companies, Visa, Facebook, HP, where I had the honor of working under his team for a short time. And he also has served time as the Chief Innovative and Portfolio Transformation Officer at Pepsico. And the thing that you know about Antonio is he has made it his career mission to make diversity and inclusion be an imperative throughout the marketing world. And he continually sets the bar high with his own actions. Every company he touches, wherever he works, whether it's in-house or as an agency partner, he makes sure that the representation of women and people of color is raised. And he, rightly has received many accolades throughout his career, but he is currently the principal and founder of 5S Diversity, where he continues to fight the fight and to inspire others to have game-changing diversity and inclusion practices. So welcome, Antonio. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
It is my pleasure, Angela. So nice to see you again. You are a talented storyteller, so it's really my honor to be here sharing the stage with you.
Thank you so much. So I want to dive right into the topic of the day. And I want to ask you, I know that as long as I've been aware of your career and following you, you've been talking about diversity and inclusion, but at what point did you first realize that the marketing world had a diversity problem?
It's a really good question, Angela, because it doesn't, it's not an obvious answer. I, like many people like myself, had the privilege of growing up in the international division of major multinationals. And as growing in an international division, we had a diversity problem related to women, but we were all different. We all have had accents, including the Americans, by the way. So when you were in a round table on the international divisions of PepsiCo, in my particular case, we were all rather unique and distinct, and diverse points of view was what you were actually looking for, because you cannot do business around the globe if you don't have those perspectives helping lead that particular agenda. So it was a business imperative that translated into it. As I said, the issue that we needed to fix was women. The moment that I started working in domestic divisions, the moment that I transitioned from head of marketing of international, and then began to sit in the C-suite and began to have experience with the domestic division, is that I came to terms with, my goodness, what's going on? The dynamics were fundamentally different if in the international division there was a complete representation of different countries, cultures, ethnicity, so on and so forth, the homogeneity involved in the domestic divisions was rather scary. It was not just gender, but people mostly from the same schools, usually from the Northeast, and they all kind of speak the same and thought the same way. So I began to notice the issues there, to the point, Angela, and by the way, there's a lot of global CMOs like myself that grew up internationally and then became responsible for the US, including Jonathan Mindenhall, who was the CMO of Airbnb, who came from the Coca-Cola company. He's Black, gay, British. We would both tell you, and many others, that if I had developed my career in the US division, you would not be having these conversations with me, not because people were not aware, and I was fundamentally different. I spoke differently. I came from a state university. I had a very different point of view and style. And I don't think I would have been able to develop, even as a senior leader. Sometimes I was in round tables and I was talking the way that you have seen me talk, and I would notice a couple of people rolling their eyes. I didn't care because I was a boss. So I could roll over anybody in that particular situation. But if I wasn't a boss, if this would have been, if that would have happened earlier in my careers, and people would roll their eyes just because I had a different accent or because I decided to express myself differently, it would have a negative impact on my self-esteem and on my ability to actually accomplish things. So it was the moment that I started working with the US that I realized that it was a problem.
Yeah, what a remarkable sort of awareness that you have. And I can imagine those rooms. And there's something I actually really want to talk to you about. I use you as an example all the time as somebody who speaks his mind and calls things out. And as you were saying, you had when you have the seat of power at the table, it's possible to do that. And I think this is a lesson that many people have yet to learn. And I wondered if we could just talk about that a little bit. I'm just going to share this one anecdote that I have a memory of working with you that I tell other people all the time. And we were having a meeting with a creative agency. There was some of the men came, they were the creators on the project. And there was a female who was working the PowerPoint. And we had the meeting. You asked everybody quite consciously to share our opinions and thoughts. And then at the end of the meeting, you said, please do not ever come here again and not have everybody on your team participate equally. And I was like, whoa, mic drop. Like, this is the moment. Like, all my career, I have never heard anybody point out the obvious, that the men do all the speaking and the women are just sitting there silent at presentations. So I wonder if we could talk a little bit about that. Like, when did you start making that a part of your curriculum in a way where you're educating others? And how would you encourage others to sort of, be brave and speak up at certain moments?
Yes, again, there are different philosophies on this particular topic, Angela. In my particular case, and I can only speak for myself, I did make a very conscious decision that I was going to become a master in my craft, that I was going to grow, achieve positions of power, and then I was going to leverage my power. There are different people that do it differently. In my particular case, I was very focused on ensuring that my credentials as a great marketer were going to speak for myself first and foremost. A lot of people in the D&I will start sooner Sometimes they get confused whether their job is activism or actually building the business. I was very focused. And that focus actually helped me a lot in terms of the moment that I had the chairs. It didn't have to be the chair of the CMO. There were other points in between. The moment that I had the power to actually impact things around me, whether it was the people in my brand or whether it was the ecosystem that I was responsible for, or the people that I was going to hire, that's the moment where I began to unleash the approach. I've also been very curious about the topic, and I own the responsibility of trying to learn as much as I can. I have a Latin man perspective on life. I did not come from a very liberal household at all. I was allowed to go to the US to pursue my university, and my sisters were not. One of my sisters, Norma, is exponentially more intelligent than I will ever be, and she was asked to stay. I mean, she had an amazing career and all that, but it was like I did not come from the most. So I've had my own personal journey, and I've become very studious about it. The situation that you're referring to actually came from a conversation that I had with a woman that I respect very much. We worked at PepsiCo, and then we landed together at Visa. As she said, the most important thing, and I asked her, what is the best way to empower women in meetings? And she said the 3 words. What do you think? That's your strategy. So at any meeting, you're running that particular meeting, the guys are going to be jumping for share of words and share of time. And you turn around and you looked at the women in the room and you specifically asked them, what do you think? And that was the gist of it. On that particular situation that you're referring to, it happened to me a lot of times, even at Yale, that I'm an executive sponsor now. We had Yale students coming in to make a presentation. All the guys were wearing suits. They had the woman who was an MBA student as well, flipping the slides. Or by the way, she was the smartest one of the group. But I had to specifically ask her about it. And I said, I turned to the professor and said, I actually regret the fact, I'm a father of 5 daughters. I actually regret the fact that you have only one woman here. She's smarter than the rest of you, and you have them flipping slides. It's not okay.
I wish I could have seen their faces.
It never happened again. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
Next year we had a balanced group. And by the way, most of the product categories that I've been involved with, women are the ones that actually make the decision to buy. So it even forget about the values that obviously are very important.
Right.
Even from a business standpoint, it just does not make sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a background in women's media before I worked in brands, and that was what we preached constantly. You know, women hold the power when it comes to family purchasing. So when we were at HP, you also launched something that was the marketing agency diversity scorecard, which, I worked on the communications of it behind the scenes. And I'm wondering if we could just talk about it a little bit and see, how you think that went. And, you talked about Yale, sounds like it happened quite recently. Like, have things really improved much since 2016 when you were doing that?
The answer is no. I wish they had. I mean, there is some progress in the industry, which is important and noticeable, but we need to take it to the next level. So things that have worked well. The number of women CMOs for the first time has surpassed the number of men CMOs in the United States. So it's it's close to 54, 55%. That's a huge deal. 5 years ago,
Yep.
that wasn't the case. And there has been a very specific focus across the totality of the industry to do that. On the agency side of the world, I will also say that on chief creative officers, I mean, Kat Gordon 10 years ago created the 3% conference because there was only 3% of the women as head creatives. Today the number is at 33. Granted, it should be over 50 because of everything that we've talked about. But that in a decade is a meaningful meaningful progress. We are celebrating the fact that women CEOs have achieved the 12% mark. Mm-hmm. That to me is embarrassing. It's the same holds true for boards of directors. The same holds true for C-suite roles. So there are areas in which we're making, and by the way, the level below of the CMO and the chief creative officers and all that, there are all sorts of issues in terms of pipeline, the management of that pipeline that to maintain this will be a challenge in and of itself. So some progress, but a lot more to do. The initiative that we started at HP was again, if we believed in the business imperative of diversity, if we believed in all the research that has been done by all the major consulting firms around the world, that diverse board perform better, diverse C-suite perform better, diverse marketing teams perform better. What the industry was lacking was actually real test cases with real results. So the conversation becomes a bit conceptual and esoteric. Yeah. No one was able to tell you, okay, we actually did this, and these were the numbers, and this was the process, and by the way, these were the results. So that was the task that we undertook, which was, okay, let's try to prove the point. So diverse clients, diverse agencies, diverse production houses should lead into better work.
Yeah.
That was the call. We had to diversify our teams first. That took me about 2 years to actually do that. In order to do it well without, I mean, you got to do these things well so that you're not diversifying for the sake of diversifying, you're diversifying for the sake of growth. And therefore you need the right people in the right boxes. And sometimes because the pipelines are not where they need to be, it takes you a little longer to actually do the right thing. So it took me 2 years to diversify my own team. And then the conversation with our agency partners across from PR all the way down to full communications was the invitation to them to actually diversify their team and to set their own goals. And we were very specific about, this is not general numbers, which is what everybody does, and you fill the numbers with junior people, which is kind of easy. What we are going to measure is head of strategy, head of account, and head creative. That's the dynamics that they accepted the challenge. They set their own targets. We were able to measure progress. I had to lead the agenda directly with the CEOs. It starts with the top.
Yep.
And then our very good insights analytic team, Dan Salzman was the person that did it, was able to then showcase the impact that diverse clients, teams, and even directors at the production side actually translated into higher purchase intent of the work that was delivered. That was the essence of the work, and I believe that we need more test cases like that, so that people feel much more comfortable driving change.
I mean, I feel like that's always the case when you're trying to, create change, it's really valuable to be able to have the data. And I think in this case, you're talking about transparency, because, for so many people, as you were just saying, they might have a couple of people on the team who are diverse, but you just peek under the curtain and you realize that they're just being put forward, but the people behind them or the lead creatives are not. And I feel like after you left HP, like the work continued, but not with like the scrutiny that I feel that is like the consistent attention that is still required. As you said, it hasn't changed that much in the world since then.
The issue with this, Angela, is that this is change management, and it takes time, focus, and discipline, and a lot of people take it as a great PR stunt. Now we're announcing this challenge, and now we're announcing this initiative. Now we're announcing this partnership. The only way to sustain change is by, having a very focused, disciplined agenda where you're maintaining the pressure, you're measuring results, and you're proving the business case year after year after year. If not, people get bored, particularly marketing people. As we've seen in the discipline, marketing people get bored of their own work before consumers do.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'd love to talk a little bit about the idea of the work, because I feel like in addition to pushing for diversity and the teams and the creators, there has been a push, especially, after the George Floyd tragedy and the Black Lives Matter movement launched. I'm sure you saw this. I think you were at Facebook during that time. It's the same thing, that they have a word for it in the sustainability world, which they call it greenwashing, where all of a sudden the brands like glom onto something that they know people care about, and but they may not be walking the walk, but they push forward things in their marketing. And I think that it's still at great risk. I mean, just this week, I think there's a big controversy around a campaign that Bud Light has done.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like this constant like push and pull. And how do you know, as a marketer and a brand storyteller, to lead, to lead your stories, like what is genuine and what is truthful and going to resonate with your brand and your audience, as opposed to just like checking a box. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense, but what you're presenting has multiple dimensions that need to be addressed. Number one, do you have clarity as to what you want to accomplish and with whom? That's like very, 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 very important. Number two, what are the issues that are relevant to your brand? Because the risk, I mean, you've been in communications roles for many years. A lot of the risk involved with brands today is that everyone, not everyone, but there is the expectations that they have to take a stand on everything. And the Edelman Trust Barometer actually proves the point that people today, since they have this distrust of government and institutions, they actually have a higher affinity and trust to corporations, because they are taking care of their employees, and their employees have a bigger impact in society. So that the role that corporations need to play a bigger role in societal issues has been clearly established. Where companies struggle is which ones and when. And to me, it has always been about what are the issues that are critical to your business model. In other words, for HP, sustainability is a big issue. Why? Because of the footprint that we were leaving behind. So dealing with that is core to the business, core to society. It's authentic, is real, check mark. The the beverage business, it's water conservation. Why? Because, and then, so one is what is critical for your business, and the other one is what is important for your values. And within your values, you're going to have to clearly establish the ones that you're going to take a leading aspect of it, which is, this is part of my core corporation, which are the issues where you're going to fly as a flock, which is, as an industry, we believed on this, and what are specifically the issues that you are not going to deal with because they don't hit values and they don't hit and brands need to have that level of clarity. Otherwise, you're constantly reacting. And by the way, the clarity is across the multiple stakeholders, starting with your employees. The employees need to know this is a core issue for us. Sustainability is important because it's important for our business and the footprint that we're leaving behind in the world. It's so we're going to. These are issues, or these are other issues. Diversity is really important for us because we're a global company and all that type of stuff. These are other issues in which we fly with the industry, and these are others that I know that they're very important for a lot of people. It may be even important to me personally, like heart health, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing. So that's one. Two is the only way that once you decide to step in, to do it authentically, you need to have diversity of voices in your company and your ecosystem that allow you to actually assess whether what you're doing is in line with where it needs to be or doesn't. Because if you don't have those internal debates, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to be called upon it, and then you're going to have to be in crisis mode. The third piece, which I think is the issue with Bud Light, is, and by the way, both Karen Khan, your boss, and you were very good at doing this role at HP, which is, this issue is controversial. We need to assess what could be claimed and how are we going to react on it, so that we can
our seat at the table, you know, what is our voice adding to the conversation?
That's right. I mean, the case, the Budweiser case to me is very interesting. The strategy is correct. We need to make this brand significantly more relevant to the younger generation. The younger generation is open. It is more fluid in the way that they see the world, in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of everything. That is okay. What is the backlash has to do with values and something else. What is the way in which we're going to react to that particular moment? That's what the Bud Light case is teaching me, that we're going to need to have significantly more view of possibilities as we undertake some of these things that are strategically correct for the brand.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am heartbroken as to the way that the other side has become personal with the marketing VP of Budweiser, bringing her personal life into the conversation is really, really difficult.
It seems like a sort of a natural process, though. Like when something ignites a fire like this, that is one of the tools or weapons that instantly comes out of the arsenal, which is like, let's make this personal. Who's responsible? And we see it again and again, whether, you know, politicians, judges, and people who are, you know, marketers. I mean, it is shocking, and it's a sad place that we're at. But I think what I think is so interesting about it, I mean, one of the many things is this power, the idea of how brands can use their voice as a force of good. And this is something I know that you spoke of frequently, and sort of cleared the path to allow your team to do this. But I think that in, people say we're in a macro economy at the moment, and there's a lot of shifting. And certainly in our brand storytelling world, I'm hearing from my colleagues, priorities are shifting, and people are saying things like, if we're not talking about our products, we're not doing our jobs. And it's sort of, it seems like that these type of purpose-driven initiatives about your brand values are in some places taking more of a back seat, or perhaps not receiving the attention, the consistent attention that they may need. And I'm wondering if you've had a long enough career to see these ebbs and flows of the economy and how the pendulum swings, and if you might have any insights as to this particular moment in time and the way marketers are approaching their storytelling.
Yeah, I hate pendular binary conversations. They're not helpful at all. I mean, when people talk, is it business or purpose? Mm-hmm. Is it societal values or product values? Those conversations are really not helpful.
Why or?
They're not helpful at all. But there is something to be said about companies that forget that if they are not in business, they cannot have an impact in society, and then they become almost activist and forget the product side of it. The opposite is also true, which is companies that they're just focused on their product initiatives. The new consumer expect them to play a bigger role in society. So to me is, how do you strike the balance to do two? When I hear battles of CMOs talking, is it performance with purpose or is it purpose with performance? It's both.
Yeah.
And one is the issue has been that we've separated, it's almost like the same argument that performance marketers and brand marketers have. It's either performance or it's either brand. The truth of the matter is that what, why, and how need to be inextricably linked. Mm. So when they don't, companies lose their way. The case of Unilever, great poster child for purpose-driven. Well, the CEO was ousted. The performance was not there. They had to actually significantly increase their prices and do other things. Then you have Procter & Gamble saying, well, what happened with Unilever is that they forgot that it is actually performance followed by purpose and not the other way around. These things drive me crazy, Angela. At the end of the day, if you're going to build a business that stands the test of time, you're going to have to be able to deliver products that people want and need within the values of the society in which they are serving. It is one package. The moment that the comms team is, I just want to do social justice films, which are great, and the marketing team was, no, I just want to sell computers, and there's not an integrated view of what, why, and how, is where we get into these problems and budgets are cut, and we go from just doing social justice communications to no, now we're actually just doing features. Consumers don't think that way.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I want to hear a little bit about your work at 5S, and can you tell me, like, how is this initiative working? What is its mission and goals, and how can people engage with you?
Oh, you mean my company? Well, so
yes.
The impetus of this, Angela, is again, it's a continuation of of the journey, which is everything that we said at the very beginning. Yeah, we have more women CMOs. We don't have a lot of people of color CMO. You can count them with one hand. Everybody talks that the issue is not at the introductory or at the entry level, but rather in the middle. So all the conversations that I had, experience that I personally have with, plus conversations with the Association of National Advertisers, the World Federation of Advertisers, the 4X, it's all like we need to develop the next generation of leaders. In the model that I was able to develop over time, every successful CEO or CMO or C-suite that I have been exposed to has had 4 things going for her or him. Number 1 is capability. Mm-hmm. Capability at 2 levels, functional and leadership. All the research that we have will suggest that women and people of color get the functional, they don't get the leadership. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is community, but community is very important. Community outside of your company. Because for the most part, the type of community support that you need is people that tell you the truth, people that give you perspective, best practices, and help you avoid the feeling of isolation. That cannot happen internally because there are agendas to be played. This happens externally. Third is mentorship. And for me, mentor, and I'm going to talk about sponsorship in a minute, mentor is also outside of your company. Mm-hmm. Is the people that get to know you really well, that have your well-being in mind only, without any agenda. These are the people that will ask you the very tough questions in life. And then the last piece is sponsorship, which is inside your company. Who are the people that are not just having coffee with you, but are advocating for you? And these are the people that are going to push your career by giving you stretch assignments that every single leader that I know have had in their life, where your potential is significantly higher than your capability. We've all been in situations like that. That's the only way that we grow. Unfortunately, in our industry, if it is given to a white guy from Harvard, it's called a developmental assignment. If it is given to Antonio Lucio, it's called a diversity play. And by the way, it's ridiculous because by definition, you are not ready for that job. You're not capable. Someone is making a bet on your potential. So anyway, that's kind of the model. So I then decided to focus on middle managers, 1 to 2 levels below the CMO, client side first, and focus on delivering on those 4 pillars. Focusing on leadership capabilities, and for that I brought in 2 companies, 2 associations that I've been associated with for the last 15 years, the Aspen Institute and Yale School of Management. Community, making sure that the participants in the project, it's called LEAP, Leadership Empowerment Acceleration Project, that there was diversity of industry. So we have today 17 major corporations in 15 different industries. So from HP to McDonald's to Anheuser-Busch to Chase to Intuit to Boston Consulting Group to Target to Bayer. Anyway, 15 different industries, so that these people could build community outside of their companies. I do the mentoring, so each participant gets 3 one-hour in-depth conversations with me, and each one of their bosses or CMOs actually agrees to sponsor the participants for the companies for the next 2 years, and we track them. That's what LEAP is about. I started with this as a pilot about a year and a half ago. Now we're in LEAP 6. So it's been a fascinating journey. And for me, honestly, being able to spend time with the next generation of leaders that hopefully will be more diverse in terms of women and people of color is actually a blessing. So that's what the work is about.
Well, I'd love to invite Rick Parkhill to come back and join us as we wrap things up. As you know, we are working on our own diversity imperative here with the brand storytelling community, providing some of these things that you so eloquently described in LEAP, mentorship for people outside of their own companies. And it's, we've only just begun, and already the response and what you get from being a mentor, as you say, is so valuable. And so I don't know, Rick, I see you.
Yeah, so we are recruiting sponsors as we speak. So those of you who think you can help, please go visit our website at BrandStorytelling.tv, send me an email and raise your hand and say, I could be a sponsor of an underrepresented creative. I can open doors, I can provide opportunity. Those are people that we need to recruit. And Tony, I love your message about it's one package, because there are ripples of fear in our community of brand storytellers right now that budgets are getting whacked, that storytelling is not an imperative, that brands are moving more to transactional, performance-based investment. So we got people in the brand storytelling world that are wondering how long their jobs are going to last, which is a shame. To me, it seems like this is a time for brands to be leaning into, expressing what their values are and doing it through storytelling. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, the only thing that I would tell you, Rick, on that is that we also need to change, because it's almost like performance marketing is click to buy. It has to be boring and transactional. And storytelling is a 3-minute film, amazing, with great music and directors and people that suffer and tears and laughter and all that type of stuff. That to me, it's one package. Why shouldn't a great storyteller have impact on those transactional moments to make them more human?
Yeah.
Why don't storytellers have an editing oversight over GPT-4 to ensure that the conversations that we're having with people now through machines are indeed resonating the right heartstring, which we know at the end of the day continues to be the key for building relationships. So there is the trends that you're talking about, but we also, as storytellers, need to reframe the level of contributions that we can do in our business, because even in this era that you're talking about, transactional performance, GPT-4, we can play an amazing role.
Yes.
Wow. Well, there's a whole nother conversation to invite you back to on AI and its role in marketing, and what brands need to be careful of with that as well. So it's so great to have you on. Appreciate your time so much. I hope we can do this again.
Thank you, Antonio.
Anything that I can do for help, just count me in.
By the way, if you're going to be in New York on June 14th, come join us at Tribeca X. We'd love to see you there if you're back in New York.
Send me a note. If I'm there, I would love to do it, actually.
Perfect.
See you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you
for the time.